Meet the XG350R-C, the latest ultra-wide in Viewsonic's Elite series of gaming monitors. I'll go ahead and spoil a few things for you right up front. It's pretty good. The gaming performance is good. The price is, I guess, good. Color reproduction is good. Form factor is good. And the feature set is good. But do marks of good in almost every category make a product great? And should you buy this over other competing products? Try to get to the bottom of those questions in this video. If you've been searching for that final piece for your show build, look no further than Thermaltake's new water RAM DDR4. The low-profile 3200 speed DIMMs look great in any configuration, but the RGB magic really happens when you attach the included custom water block. Compatible with Thermaltake's extensive RGB ecosystem and Amazon Alexa, water RAM is a true eye-catcher that will make your system stand out from the crowd. So check out the link below to learn more. Viewsonic reached out to me a few months ago and offered to send over two of their new monitors. A 24-inch 1080p TN panel, and this beast right here, a 1440p 100Hz ultra-wide. While I wasn't particularly interested in the smaller of the two, a 35-inch curved VA FreeSync-enabled monitor will always have significant appeal, both to a reviewer and to a potential consumer, so I agreed to take a look at the XG350R-C under one condition: that I be allowed to live with it for a while and fully flesh out the user experience from all angles, instead of just trying to push out a review based on first impressions. I always feel that this is especially important with things like keyboards, mice, and monitors, because the more that you interact with them, the more the little idiosyncrasies will come to the forefront. This isn't like testing a CPU or a graphics card, where some benchmark numbers will pretty much tell the whole story, whether you own one for 2 days or 2 years. So about 2 months ago, I swapped out my LG 34-inch 5K ultrawide for something a little more fun, and with a little more RGB. While the LG was amazing to edit on, to be frank, it was kind of a terrible gaming experience. Not only is 5120 by 2160 almost an impossible resolution to realize for AAA gaming, it was a 60Hz monitor with no adaptive sync, meaning that I experienced what I can only describe as impressive amounts of tearing. Of course, this was a professional grade content creation monitor, not a gaming panel, so I wasn't going to complain about it. But every once in a while, I kind of missed being able to fire up my favorite titles and have some mindless fun without being completely taken out of the experience because my monitor was just meant for better things. And that brings me to my first point about this Viewsonic unit right here. While you won't get perfectly calibrated, professional class color reproduction out of it, and we'll touch more on that a little bit later, after some tweaking, it was more than serviceable as my daily editing monitor. And gaming on this thing was just so much better. This is a 100Hz 3440 by 1440 VA panel with a FreeSync range of 48 to 100Hz and a 3 millisecond gray-to-gray response time. This is still the ideal ultra-wide gaming resolution, as most mid to high-end GPUs will have no problem sitting comfortably inside that FreeSync range without having to compromise on any quality settings. I tested the XG350 initially with a Radeon 7, and FreeSync worked as you'd expect FreeSync to work. Really smooth action with no lag or stuttering. But the real gem here is that while this isn't officially G-Sync certified by NVIDIA, it certainly functions as you'd expect a 100Hz G-Sync panel to. Enabling G-Sync took like 2 clicks in the NVIDIA settings, and from there on out it was smooth sailing with basically the exact same experience as with an AMD graphics card. The only time that I ran into issues was when my 2080 Ti was actually pushing frame rates well beyond 100 FPS, and then to be honest, I did see some tearing, but the simple fix for that is to cap a game's frame rate at 100 and then you're all set. Most of the time with more demanding games like Metro Exodus, I was just making myself right at home inside that fairly wide FreeSync range without any additional adjustments at all. This is a huge change from what I've been used to dealing with. Gaming on an adaptive, high refresh rate monitor is something that's hard to give up once you're used to it. Not only is the action without any distracting tearing or stuttering, but just due to the additional frames being displayed, your experience is noticeably smoother and more precise. I'm by no means a professional gamer, or even what most people would consider to be a good player, but I felt that I was more able to accurately track and target enemies just because my monitor was keeping up with the on-screen action. This is by no means a placebo effect. In fact, there have been a number of videos, articles, and studies done to prove that high refresh rate displays actually do make a difference. And the XG350 is certainly no exception to that. Additionally, while I kind of figured using a 35-inch monitor would be basically an identical experience to a 34-inch, I'm certainly able to notice that extra inch of diagonal real estate. Don't forget that a 35-inch monitor will be both wider and taller than a 34-inch, giving you more workable screen area. And with the 1800R curvature of the housing, it really does fill your field of view and immerse you in the action. So gaming on this is definitely a check mark in the win column for Viewsonic. But let's backtrack a bit and discuss some other specs that maybe fall more into the questionable or even the negative. Viewsonic is marketing this as an HDR10 compliant display. It is not. Peak brightness is only 300 nits, far below the HDR10 standard of 1000 nits. Additionally, HDR content looks kind of like garbage. It definitely works and you can enable HDR and the monitor will show it to you, but it's a muddy, garbled mess of undersaturated colors with a distinct lack of clarity. I wouldn't recommend using the XG350 for any kind of HDR output. It just won't do it justice. And the SDR mode looks better. Also, this is not a small or svelte housing. I was kind of used to the LG's slim, modern housing and bezel. This is not that. I think Viewsonic was aiming more for function over form, as while the bezels aren't really intrusive as they're just matte black, they're definitely there and they add to the X and Y dimensions. Also, I wasn't quite prepared for how deep it is. Sitting on a desk, it's a full 12 inches or 306 millimeters from front to back, and that's not just because of the stand. The monitor housing is 5 inches deep all on its own, and that's not because it does you the convenience of integrating the power supply. No, you will definitely still need to deal with a huge brick attached to the power cord. The stand does provide a good bit of adjustment, however, as you get 100 millimeters of height, 45 degrees of swivel, and 20 total degrees of tilt. The stand itself is sturdy, although the design of the base is a little dated and uses maybe my most hated material in modern PC component design, piano finish black plastic. This fingerprints, scuffs, and scratches easier than literally anything else out there, and needs to be just removed from circulation. There's also RGB lighting integrated into the front-facing lower portion of the base that's part of their Elite RGB lighting package. This includes 4 wing-shaped RGB accents on the rear of the monitor, which I still kind of fail to grasp the point of. These aren't bright enough to create any kind of ambient backlighting. If you want that, you'll have to go with the NZXT Hue 2 kit or something maybe from Philips or something specifically designed for that purpose. These are just way too dim, and even in a totally dark room, they aren't visible in my setup, which has the monitor pushed basically right up against the wall. Other than that, why is this a feature? How many people are walking behind your monitor to admire the lighting? Nobody. Nobody's doing that. If you'd rather just mount it to the wall, there are VESA mounting points back here as well. Just keep that depth of the housing in mind. The display itself came from the factory with a decently accurate color calibration to it. I didn't have to make many changes, although I did just make a few minor adjustments to brightness and contrast to suit my needs and my editing style. Although you won't find sRGB color space here in any reasonable percentage, I was pleased with the color correction process while editing videos. I was still able to apply the same adjustment layers, the same LUTs, and the same effects without noticing any tragic differences in reproduction that might throw off my workflow. Of course, something like my old LG is just in another category entirely, but for a gaming branded non-IPS monitor, this definitely falls in the category of acceptable. This was another spot though where I did notice and take advantage of that extra inch of screen. Of course, the resolution is scaled way down, but I was able to stretch out my timeline just a bit, and I've had a good experience overall doing what I spend the most time doing, which is editing videos for you fine folks. The biggest problem that I've had has been while working with dark images or scenes. Because this is an edge-lit LCD monitor, displaying pure black is almost impossible. There are significant hotspots all around the edges that bleed light out onto the screen, which is not unusual for an edge-lit setup, but it's pretty bad here. Color uniformity is still solid, with the only slightly darker area being the upper right corner, which I'm not even sure comes out on camera because it's almost impossible to notice. It's not really an issue. I didn't have any dead pixels on my sample, so thumbs up for quality control on that one. The biggest issue for the Viewsonic XG350R-C is competition in this space. It seems like almost every company these days is coming out with their own 3440 by 1440 100Hz FreeSync monitor, some with more features than others. The list price on this is $789, but you can get it on Amazon for about $100 less than that. And maybe 2 years ago I would have said that that is a steal. But in August of 2019, there's a huge amount of similarly spec'd competitors selling for far less from reputable brands. Yes, they may be missing a feature, or have no RGB lighting, or no HDR support, and to be fair, the Viewsonic really doesn't have HDR either. But if you want a 100Hz ultra-wide experience, there's no shortage of companies looking to make you a customer of theirs. To be fair, I really do like the XG350. And I've rediscovered my love for fast-paced first-person shooters as a result of being able to play in silky smooth G-Sync goodness. I've also found that editing on here is a good overall experience. So the two main things that I do with a monitor, Viewsonic has my approval on. But there are a lot of little things that add up to make this a questionable purchase recommendation. And also, they do prevent it from being classified as great. HDR? No, that doesn't really exist here. Light bleed? Yeah, we got some of that. Housing and stand? Well, needs a little revisiting. And if any company, not just Viewsonic, is charging more for their products because of integrated RGB effects that I can't even see, well then we need to have words, because that's just stupid. I'll continue to use the XG350GC on my desk for now, because I am having a ton of fun with it. And I can't wait to play Doom Eternal. But you'll need to figure out if the features it offers are right for you for the price when so many other offerings are out there for maybe even significantly less money. So what monitor do you guys game on, and would you consider upgrading to this Viewsonic? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to get subscribed to the channel if you're not already, and as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.